You forgave them, and you never told them. No apology demanded, no closure requested, no final conversation where you finally said everything you'd been holding on to for years. You just let it go, quietly, privately. In a moment they will never know happened, on a day they will never remember, you set down a weight you had been carrying for longer than you'd like to admit, and somewhere, without knowing it, they got away with something they never had to answer for. Most people can't understand that. Most people think forgiveness has to be loud. They think it has to come with a sit-down conversation, a tearful confession, a moment where the other person finally sees what they did and says the words you've been waiting years to hear. They think peace only counts if someone else witnesses it, if someone else validates it, if someone else says I'm sorry, and you get to say I forgive you, and the two of you hug it out like it's the final scene of a movie. But that's not how real peace works. Real peace doesn't need an audience. Real peace doesn't need permission. Real peace doesn't even need the other person to know it happened at all. You forgave them without ever telling them. What kind of peace is that? It's the kind that doesn't need them anymore. Think about what that actually means. It means you stopped waiting. You stopped waiting for the phone call that was never going to come. You stopped waiting for the apology that they were never going to offer, because some people are constitutionally incapable of admitting they were wrong. You stopped waiting for them to finally understand what they cost you, what they took from you, what they broke in you that took years to quietly repair. You stopped waiting, and in stopping, you took your life back from a debt they never intended to pay, because that's what a grudge really is. It's a debt. You keep a ledger, you keep score. Every sleepless night, every rehearsed argument in the shower, every imagined conversation where you finally say the perfect thing that makes them understand. That's interest accumulating on a debt someone else took out in your name. And the cruel joke is, they don't even know the ledger exists. They're not up at night thinking about what they owe you. You're the only one paying it. So you closed the account, quietly, without telling the debtor, without sending them a notice. You just stopped charging interest on something that was never going to be repaid. People will tell you that's not real forgiveness. They'll tell you real forgiveness requires reconciliation, requires a conversation, requires the other person to know they've been forgiven so they can feel the relief of it. But ask yourself something. Who is that relief actually for? Because if you tell them you forgive them, and you watch their shoulders drop, and you watch them exhale like a weight has lifted off their chest, whose weight was that? It was never yours. You gave them a gift they didn't earn, the comfort of knowing they got away with it clean. Silent forgiveness doesn't give them that comfort. It doesn't give them anything. It's not for them at all. It never was. It's for you, and only you, and that's exactly why it's the strongest kind there is. You didn't need them to understand what they did. You understood it. That was enough. You didn't need them to say sorry. You said it to yourself, on their behalf, because you were tired of waiting for words that weren't coming. You didn't need them to change. You changed the way you carried what they did to you, and that changed everything, without them lifting a single finger. That's the part people don't talk about. Healing was never supposed to require their participation. If it did, you'd still be broken, because some people never come back to fix what they broke. Some people disappear. Some people double down and insist they did nothing wrong. Some people die before you ever get the chance to say what needed to be said. If your peace depended on their cooperation, you would have been waiting your whole life for something that was never going to arrive, so you stopped waiting. You built peace out of what you had, instead of waiting for what you were owed. Let's talk about what that actually costs, because it isn't free. Silent forgiveness is not the easy way out. It is not passive. It is not weakness dressed up in a calm voice. It is one of the hardest disciplines a person can practice, because every single day you have to choose it again. You have to choose it when their name comes up in conversation and your stomach still tightens for half a second. You have to choose it when you see them living a life that looks untouched by what they did, laughing in photos, moving on, seemingly unbothered, while you spent months rebuilding yourself from the ground up. You have to choose it when a memory ambushes you out of nowhere, a smell, a song, a street corner, and drags you right back to the moment it happened, and you feel that old anger flicker awake like a pilot light that never fully went out. In those moments, you don't call them. You don't send the text you drafted and deleted 4 times. You don't dig through old messages looking for evidence to justify the anger, or scroll their profile looking for proof that karma finally caught up with them. You sit with it. You let it pass through you instead of controlling you. And then you go back to living, because that flicker doesn't get to run your life anymore. You already decided that. That's the work nobody sees. That's the part that never makes it into the story, because there's no dramatic scene to point to. Nobody claps for the day you didn't send the message. Nobody applauds the moment you closed the tab instead of writing the paragraph you'd been composing in your head for a week. There's no witness to the version of you that chose silence over satisfaction, over and over again, until one day it wasn't a choice anymore. It was just who you'd become. And here's the thing about people who hurt you, the ones who really did, most of them are waiting, somewhere in the back of their mind, for the moment it catches up with them. They're waiting for the confrontation. They're waiting for the message that finally says what you've been holding back. They're bracing for it, even if they'd never admit that to anyone, even if they act like they don't think about you at all. And when it never comes, when you never confront them, never expose them, never give them the dramatic reckoning they half expect, that absence becomes its own kind of unsettling. Not because you're trying to unsettle them. You're not thinking about them enough anymore to be trying to do anything to them at all. That's exactly what makes it so disarming. Your peace was never a performance aimed at them. It was never a strategy. It was simply the byproduct of you deciding to stop paying rent in a room they don't even live in anymore. There's a difference between forgiving someone and pretending nothing happened. Nobody is asking you to pretend what they did still happened. It was still real. It still mattered, and it's allowed to have mattered. Silent forgiveness isn't amnesia. You don't forget. You remember clearly enough to protect yourself the next time, clearly enough to recognize the pattern if it shows up again in someone else's face, clearly enough to know exactly what you will and will not accept from people going forward. Forgiveness without memory isn't wisdom. It's just a setup for round 2. You kept the lesson. You just let go of the weight. And letting go doesn't mean the door swings back open. Forgiving someone privately doesn't mean they get access to you again. Those are 2 completely different decisions, and confusing them is how people end up hurt twice by the same person. You can forgive someone from a distance. You can release the anger and still keep the boundary. In fact, that's usually exactly what real forgiveness looks like. Peace on your end, and distance that stays exactly where it is, because peace was never supposed to be an invitation back into your life. Think about the alternative for a second. Imagine you never let it go. Imagine you're still carrying it right now, still rehearsing the confrontation, still writing the speech you'll never deliver, still checking to see if they've posted anything that might give you a hint of how they're doing, still measuring your healing against whether they've suffered enough for what they did. What would that version of you look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Still tethered to a person who may not even remember the specifics of what happened, who has moved through the world completely unburdened while you carried the whole weight of it alone. That's not justice. That's a life sentence you handed yourself for a crime someone else committed. The people who hurt you the deepest usually cost the least to them and the most to you. That's the injustice buried underneath all of this. It was never fair, and forgiving them silently doesn't make it fair either. It doesn't rebalance the scales. It doesn't make what happened okay. What it does is stop the bleeding. It stops you from handing over any more of your life to something that already took enough. So when people ask why you never said anything, why you never confronted them, why you never demanded the apology you were owed, why you just quietly let it go and moved forward like nothing happened, the honest answer is that you did say something. You said it to yourself, in a moment they'll never witness, in words they'll never hear, and it was enough. Because it was never really about them understanding. It was about you being free. That's what makes silent peace so hard for people to explain. It doesn't come with proof. There's no screenshot of the moment you forgave someone. There's no witness who can confirm it happened. You can't hold it up and say, "See, look, I did the work." All you have is the absence of weight where there used to be a stone, and only you know it's gone. People who haven't done this kind of work will call it denial. They'll call it suppression. They'll say you're just avoiding the conversation, that you're scared of confrontation, that real closure requires the other person's involvement. Let them think that. They're measuring your peace by the rules of a system that never worked for you in the first place, a system where healing depends entirely on someone else showing up correctly, on time, with the right words. You stopped playing by those rules the day you realized the other person was never going to show up at all. There's a kind of strength in choosing peace nobody witnesses. Nobody gives you credit for the fights you didn't start. Nobody applauds the calls you didn't make, the messages you didn't send, the version of you that could have burned it all down and chose, instead, to build something quieter. That kind of strength doesn't perform. It doesn't need to be seen to be real. In fact, it's usually more real precisely because no one is watching, because you weren't doing it for an audience, you were doing it for yourself, in the privacy of your own mind, on your own time, without asking anyone's permission to finally let it go. Let's talk about what happens on the outside, because people notice a change in you even when they can't name it. They notice you're calmer around subjects that used to make you spiral. They notice you don't flinch anymore when someone brings up that person's name at dinner. They notice you can talk about what happened without your voice shaking, without your hands getting cold, without needing to leave the room to collect yourself in the bathroom mirror. They assume you got over it the normal way. Time, distraction, a new relationship, a new job, a new city. They don't know you did the harder thing. They don't know you sat with it, alone, on purpose, and worked through it without a script, without a therapist telling you the right words to use, without a support group nodding along. You built the whole staircase yourself, one step at a time, in a room nobody else was allowed into. And somewhere along the way, you stopped needing them to know that. That's the real marker of how far you've come. Not the moment you finally let go of the anger, but the moment you realized you no longer needed credit for letting it go. Early on, you probably wanted them to know. You probably fantasized about the moment they'd find out you were doing better, doing well, thriving even, and how that would sting them a little, how it would prove something. That's normal, that's part of the process. But somewhere between that fantasy and where you are now, the need to prove anything to them quietly dissolved. You stopped performing your growth for an audience that was never going to show up to watch it anyway. That shift is the real forgiveness, not the absence of anger. Anger fades on its own eventually, whether you work on it or not. The real forgiveness is the absence of the need for them to witness what the anger turned into. It's the difference between healing loudly, in a way designed to be seen, and healing quietly, in a way designed only to be lived. Some people will never understand this kind of peace because they've never had to build it without help. They got their apology, they got their closure conversation. They got the version of the story where the other person admitted wrongdoing and the two of them worked it out like two reasonable adults in a room. Good for them. That's not a luxury everyone gets. Some of the people who hurt you the most will never sit across from you and say they were wrong, because admitting that would cost them something they're not willing to pay: their self-image, their version of events, their ability to keep believing they're the good one in every story they tell about themselves. Waiting for that admission is waiting for a door that was bricked over the day they decided you weren't worth the honesty. So you found another door, a quieter one that didn't require their key at all. There's also a strange kind of grief in silent forgiveness that nobody prepares you for. You're not just letting go of the anger, you're letting go of the fantasy of the conversation you always imagined having, the one where they finally understand, the one where they cry and say they're sorry and mean it. The one where you get to watch it land on their face, the exact moment they realize what they did. Silent forgiveness means grieving that fantasy too, admitting it's never coming, and choosing peace anyway, without it. That's a smaller loss hidden inside the bigger one, and it deserves to be acknowledged, because pretending it doesn't exist is its own kind of dishonesty. But once you grieve it, once you stop waiting for the scene that was never going to happen, something shifts. You stop writing the speech. You stop checking if they've changed. You stop needing the story to end the way you always thought it should. You let it end the way it actually did, quietly, unfinished, on your terms, without their input at all. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe peace was never supposed to be a transaction between two people. Maybe it was always meant to be something you build alone, brick by brick, in silence, until one day you realize you're not carrying what you used to carry, and you can't even remember exactly when it stopped weighing you down. You just know it did. They don't get to know that happened. They don't get the comfort of your forgiveness, and they don't get the weight of your anger either. What they get is nothing, no reaction, no confrontation, no closure, no evidence either way. What they get is a version of you that simply moved on without asking their permission to do it. And what you get is everything. You get to stop checking. You get to stop waiting. You get to stop measuring your peace against whether they've suffered enough, whether they've apologized enough, whether they even remember what they did. You get your life back, fully, without a single condition attached to their behavior. That's not weakness. That's not avoidance. That's not letting them off easy. That's the quiet, unglamorous, undocumented discipline of choosing yourself over the story you used to tell about what they did to you. Nobody will ever know the exact moment it happened. There will be no anniversary for it, no candle lit in its honor, no post marking the occasion. It will just be a Tuesday, or a shower, or a long drive home, where you realize you haven't thought about it in weeks. And when you finally do, it doesn't sting the way it used to. That's the peace nobody sees coming, not because it's fake, because it's real enough that it never needed anyone else to confirm it. You forgave them without ever telling them. That's not something you did for closure, that's something you did for freedom. And freedom, unlike closure, never needed their permission at all.